All right, if everybody wants to take a seat, we're about to get started. There are a couple seats up here. There are a couple seats over here if people want to fill in. I see a few over there, so I want to make sure you get a good seat. There are also some seats out in the lobby where it's nice and cool and there's food, so you can watch it from the TV, which might be a good time. All right, I think we got everybody here. Well, I want to welcome you. I know you've already been welcomed, but welcome to the 2018 State of the City event presented by Mayor Christian McPrice, we'll go with for this evening, and obviously themed Back to the Future. My name is Jennifer Brown. I'm the Administrative Services Director and proud resident of the City of Maricopa. We are thrilled to see all of you here tonight. We have put together what we think is a spectacular presentation, and we have had, this is the biggest crowd we've had. We had 410 people RSVP for this event, so thank you for your support. So first, there are some people that I would like to introduce you to in the audience. And first, I would like to start with our Maricopa City Council members and Vice Mayor Peggy Chapados. Council member Marvin Brown, who is also celebrating a birthday tonight. Happy birthday. Council member Vincent Manfredi in the back. Councilmember Nancy Smith. Councilmember Henry Wade. Councilmember-elect Rich Vidiello. Our new city manager, Rick Horst, also known as Doc. From the Auction Tribal Council, we have Chairman Robert Miguel. And Councilmember Ann Antone. State Representative Vince Leach. Pinell County Supervisor and former Mayor Anthony Smith. Constable Brett Roberts. And Maricopa Unified School District Board members, Member Tori Anderson. Member Patty Coutre. And Superintendent Dr. Tracy Lopeman. Also with us tonight is Maricopa Flood Control District President and former council member Dan Frank. Former Mayor Kelly Anderson. And Chandler council member Kevin Hartkey. Also tonight, we have several members of our boards, committees, and commissions who are critical for the work we do. So if you serve on one of those, please stand up and be recognized. And Fountain Hill City Councilman Cecil Yates. I didn't know you were a councilman as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And this is a great crowd. You guys are interactive. I like this. So as you know, this event would not be possible without all of our very generous sponsors. And so first, I'd like to recognize the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance. They partnered with us this year to facilitate the partnership or to facilitate the sponsorships, and they did a great job of ensuring that this event is truly spectacular. They're also known as META, so a big round of applause for META. And now I'd like to recognize our gold level sponsors, Maricopa Ace Hardware, Desert Tiger Martial Arts, Global Water Resources, our silver level sponsors, Banner Health, Dignity Health, El Dorado Holdings, Southwest Gas, and Ultrastar Multitainment Center. Also, our bronze level sponsors, AP Farms, Commercial Properties Incorporated, Costa Verde Homes, ED3, Joe's A Barbershop, Mita, Orbital Communications, and Revelation Real Estate. Thank you to all of our sponsors. All right, so one more announcement before I give you the mayor. So if you guys could all indulge me for a moment, pull out your cell phones. Turn it over to the camera, and I'm going to ask you to take a picture of this screen. This means a prize for you, potentially. So take a picture. Remember this web address. So this year we have something extra special planned. Want to make sure you're listening extra close to the mayor's presentation. He's written in several quotes from the Back to the Future movies. So listen and see how many quotes you recognize. Keep a tally. And then after the presentation, but before midnight tonight, so you got to do it tonight. We want to make sure it's people who are here. Go to this web address, surveymonkey.com/r/COPA, SOTC, State of the City, and you'll put in your name, email address, phone number, and how many Back to the Future quotes you think you heard this evening. So good luck on that. And now, what you've all been waiting for, please help me welcome Mayor Christian Price.
Howdy. How are you? We having fun yet? Yeah. Good. You can't come to a boring old speech, right? You know, gotta liven this up. You know, I thought a suit was bad, but this thing, I'm gonna sweat to death up here, so I apologize. You know, there really aren't many perks in this job as mayor. People think that there are, but there's really not. I have to say that there are two tonight. And one is, of course, getting city manager Horst dressed up like Doc Brown from the movie. That was a big win. And number two is driving a DeLorean. That's a bucket list. Check that off. So I wanted to introduce Mark Burchard, who is the owner of the DeLorean. Stand up, Mark. Woohoo! Couldn't have done it without him, so we appreciate it. So we have a few surprises. I have a ton of information for you. I talk fast, I apologize, but there's so much to talk about, so we're gonna roll through this. We have some videos and some fun things to watch, but like I said, we hope you have a good time and walk away learning a little something. So this year, the city council and I, we hired a new city manager, Mr. Rick Horst, but around here, we just call him Doc. You know, when we hired him, we had no way of knowing just how many little secrets he had. Yeah, okay, we had heard about his knack for finding and implementing efficiencies. All right, that's good. We were aware of the extensive economic development that he had helped to create in other cities. Big deal, not a big deal, right? Okay. But what we had no idea about is that we had no clue that he had actual experience with time travel. It's true. And I'm going to prove it to you tonight, okay? So you thought the theme was over, but it's not. I'm standing here in this, so there's a reason for it. Okay, with the city celebrating its 15-year anniversary since its incorporation, I just figured it was the perfect time to take a look back at where we've come from and do a little peering into the future, see a little bit more about where we're going. You see, over the last month, Rick and I have been working feverishly to figure out a way to involve all of you in here to see how you can understand the time travels that we've recently been on. So sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, and here's a little intro for you. Hey Maricopa, I'm here with our new city manager, Rick Horst, affectionately known as Doc Horst, and he has some serious connections. I don't know if you know this or not. And in fact, today, he's got us a fully loaded DeLorean with a flux capacitor. Let's go check it out, see what he's up to. Hey Doc, what are you up to?
Great Scott, Mayor. My flux capacitor is fluxing away. If you really want to show the people how far we've come and how far we can go, time travel is the only way.
Doc, that's heavy, but okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Doc, that was amazing. Time travel's incredible. We got to do this for everybody so they all can be a part of it and see it. True. I told you we were going to prove it to you, right? Okay, so as you just saw, Doc and I have been working really hard for all of you, but in order for us to help you experience everything we've seen, we really needed to figure out a way to take all of you with us. That sounds a little easier, but it's not. Time traveling together just seemed like the very best way to do it. Now, we all know that time travel works best when you're going 88 miles an hour with 1.21 gigawatts of power, right? Of course it is. So instead of us all trying to cram into that little car, and I'm telling you, it is a little car, okay? We just figured that we'd tinker around a few things and that we would find a way to take all of you. And the way we'd do that is we'd turn this entire council chambers into a time machine, okay? So Doc, why don't you come on up here and show them how this is done? I know they don't believe us at the moment, so how do we do this?
First, we've got to take this, what is this thing? It's cloth off.
Oh, okay.
Great Scott, that's big. I built this gigantic flux so we can all travel back to the future and see the future together.
Thank you, Doc. That's amazing. If it starts radiating or glowing green or something, you all might want to head for the exits that are clearly posted, okay? I hope this is safe, Doc. Okay, so, Doc, I don't know what this is doing, but that's pretty heavy stuff. It really is. All right, so buckle up, Maricopa. We're going back in time. I got it from here, Doc. Okay, wait a second. Time out. Before we go any further, before we do any time traveling, I'd just like to clarify a few things. You see, when I was putting all this together, I thought I was being clever and sticking to the Back to the Future theme. By using one of the most recognizable lines that any of us have ever heard out of this movie before. I think it was this line right here.
Hey, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Okay, so as we promoted tonight's event, I heard a few rumblings from the public. I heard things like this. How do we not need roads? I also heard we have roads that need to be fixed. I heard we don't have enough roads. Okay, that's true. All of those are true. But it's just a movie quote, people. I figured you'd understand the reference, okay? But that's all right. I understand you taking me seriously. It is also possible that I may have been slightly naive enough to think that I was going to be the first one to ever use that line in a major speech of some sort, okay? Well, I have to tell you, I was rebuffed. And I was because I learned that President Ronald Reagan himself, actually, also referenced in the movie, by the way, used this line in his 1986 State of the Union address. He used it. So he beat me to it. I'm 32 years late to the party. And the way I see it, if he can do it, so can I. All right? So that's what we're going to do. Also, we're going to talk about roads tonight, because I know roads are important here. So the road that comes to everybody's mind, if you're a resident of Maricopa, is what? Say it with me now. The 347. See? You'd think you were all here in practice with me earlier, okay? So long before the first subdivision was ever built here in the city of Maricopa, the envisionment of what this road would mean to our overall success was obvious. In fact, developers could foresee that the future success of Maricopa was intrinsically tied to the ability to make 347 work properly. So they began a seemingly impossible process of working to change that future. You see, I believe that the very best way to predict the future is to simply create it. Now, Maricopa's future, well, it's still yet to be written, but our present-day Maricopa and the future we all want to see, well, that's all rooted in the past. So let me show you what I mean, and let's go back in time a bit. The year is 1989. This is where it all began. In a few lonesome plots of farmland that was as far as the eye could see. In fact, old Mr. Peabody owned all this, and he had this crazy idea of breeding pine trees. Who knew? I don't know why. But really, it was the concept, a belief, a simple hope. that a great modern city could rise from the dusty landscape. No one else believed it could be done. And if this city was going to rise out of the dirt, then we were definitely going to need a better road than we had in 1989. Now, how exactly do you get the state of Arizona to invest millions of dollars into building, expanding, and improving a 2-lane dirt roadway that has almost no traffic on it in 1989? Well, in the minds of our developers, it was about to have a lot of traffic on it, okay, as soon as all the homes started being built. And after all, the dream was that people would come flocking in droves to this area. Personally, I can hear our state leadership right now, when asked to help with it, saying, yeah, right, like that's ever going to happen, right? While rolling their eyes incredulously. After all, this was not going to be an easy task. And if it was going to happen at all, they were all going to have to pull out all the stops. And to even think about making it a reality, it was going to take a lot of work. So that's what they ultimately did. They knew it was going to take the most critical of partnerships, relationship building at its finest, loads of dedication. Despite the overwhelming odds of failure, not to mention all the naysayers out there, and there's a lot of them, they were going to have to work really, really hard to make this happen. It was going to take that Maricopa pioneering spirit, some of that good old-fashioned Maricopa grit we talked about last year. Even in our earliest years, a full 13 years after our official incorporation, before our official incorporation, through to 15 years after becoming a city today, Maricopa has always been about one thing: vision. The then Maricopa residents, land developers, Ak-Chin and Gila River Indian communities, our state legislature and our governor all worked hand in hand to create a plan to fund and pay for this badly needed lifeline to the area. It's important to note that the residents of this area, unincorporated Maricopa, paid for this through what was then called a special transportation district. Like any hot-button topic dealing with funding, voter turnout was pretty remarkable. 58% voter turnout. That's amazing today. However, their efforts paid off, and the road funding measure passed by a tiny margin. Only 21 votes. The very existence of today's 2018 Maricopa was literally born and decided back in 1989 by 21 votes. This event widened the existing 2-lane dirt road to today's SR 347. It created a more modern 4-lane highway, more like a chip seal initially, but paved and fenced in, which is also important because if you recall, when you drive up and down the 347, you see some wild horses that like to cross the road, right? So it's important that it was fenced. This was a 2-lane road that was once what once was called Old Maricopa Road, but now we call it the 347. This new modern road could now handle the expected increase in traffic and an increased traffic load it brought. If you build it, they will come. Oh, wait a second. That's a line from another movie. Sorry about that. We'll save that for next year, okay? All right, don't worry about it. You can't write that one down. Okay, you see, Maricopa began to build and grow exponentially, year after year, and more people wanted to come to this little hidden gem in the desert. Over the past 15 years, as this has occurred, we understood the need to alleviate the upcoming challenges the 347 would once again face. So the city of Maricopa and Pinal County worked together to create a new transportation plan that was voted on by the public last November, called Propositions 416 and 417. And one of the few ways that we have available to us today to control our own destiny, especially in today's political climate with limited resources, this half-penny assessment that applies to goods purchased in the county will help provide the needed funding essential to building the required infrastructure that we need to survive today and into the future. So once again, in 2017, 28 years after the first major road improvement, the people of Pinal County and the city of Maricopa courageously and emphatically stated through their slim but majority vote that yes, we want and we downright need a solution to this dangerous road and the gridlock that it often extends to our families. This plan, as written, would provide almost $100 million in critically needed road fixes and alternative entry and exit routes to and from the city of Maricopa, including the necessary improvements to the 347. Unfortunately, this voter-approved solution is now being challenged in the court system. It's very potential to aid the residents of Maricopa and all of Pinal County. Is currently being threatened by an outside agency and their fellow petitioners that don't even live within Pinal County. So once again, Maricopa is literally fighting for its future and its very right to exist. While there's too much to report on the status of this case that's going through the court system now in tonight's setting, rest assured that as you traverse this critical roadway, the city of Maricopa and Pinal County will continue to fight for the rights of our families to participate in the same transportation privileges that other citizens are able to enjoy. the ability to drive on a safe and improved modern roadway. While the outcome of this case is still unknown at this time, it is critical that we continue to execute on something that I personally started over 4 years ago, and that's working closely with our partners to accomplish what we want the 347 to look like. We understood then, and we understand now, that the process would be fraught with difficulties and that it might take a really long time. That's the way this worked. Especially with varying differences of opinion from our stakeholders, completion funding challenges, engineering and drainage issues, and many, many more. But bringing to fruition the fixes that the 347 requires can and must be done. As mayor, I talk to people every day that share their skepticisms about government's inability to work together and get things done. It perpetuates the perception and the focus that things will never progress and will never get us to the future we all long for. But I believe Maricopa is special in this respect. And sometimes all we have to do is look to our very own history to find the direction forward. If we look carefully, we might just see that the answers we are seeking to guide us to our future are actually lessons from the past laying right in front of us. Let me show you why. I want you to look closely at this picture. This is the signing ceremony on June 29, 1988 of House Bill 2106. This bill created the special road district that would allow voters to approve the selling of bonds to finance the construction of SR 347. I'd like to point out here that the represented stakeholders in this picture had to overcome their extensive political differences in order to create something greater than themselves and potentially get this project that we all rely on today over the finish line. We have people like Governor Rose Mofford, Representative Jim Hartigan from Casa Grande, Representative Henry Evans from Tolleson, Pinal County Supervisor Dean Weatherly, Monty Ortman from Eldorado Holdings, Mike Ingram of Eldorado Holdings and President of the Maricopa Road Association, Governor Thomas White of the Gila River Indian Community, and Leona Kakar, Chairwoman of the Ak-Chin Indian Community. This is just to name a few. While the precise method of getting funding needed then is often a political hot potato today, the outcomes and processes of building vital coalitions of stakeholders, advancing relationships, finding creative funding solutions, and ultimately getting to construction remain exactly the same today. With the presence of the same desire, drive, and belief in our future, and with the help of partnerships like these diplomats represented here, I declare to you today that when it comes to the fixing of the 347, with Maricopa leading the charge, we have done it before and we will do it again. You know, with the ever-expanding population growth that Maricopa continues to experience comes some other large transportation problems along the 347. A little something to do with, I don't know, lots of freight trains and someday a quadruple tracking, okay? And let's not forget the fan favorite, the Amtrak. That's right, okay. So, but as promised, in recent years, the $55 million grade separation project is now under construction, but this too was not a simple, quick, or easy process. In fact, road projects, because of the political and engineering complexity and their enormous price tags, often take decades to accomplish. In fact, highways like the 101 and the 202 and the 303 that we all drive today and take for granted, they were all just lines on a map for upwards of 30 plus years until all those issues I just mentioned were resolved. That's a long time to wait. As Maricopa experienced its hypergrowth, our need to solve the upcoming public safety and traffic flow predicament was understood even on day one of our incorporation. While 15 years doesn't seem like that long ago, when looking backwards, when looking forwards, it seems like it can take an eternity from now. So many things change and happen in 15 short years. So let's take just a moment and look back at what life was like for us in 2003. So the average gallon of gasoline was $1.83. The Space Shuttle Columbia broke up on re-entry that year. The Concorde took its last flight. California elected Arnold Schwarzenegger as its governor. Saddam Hussein was captured. The Do Not Call list was created. They had just finished the world's human genome mapping project. But most importantly, the city of Maricopa was born. Yeah. So, Doc, could you come on up here for a minute? help us get going. Are you all ready to do a little time traveling with me here? Absolutely. That's why we built this thing, right? Okay. So you want to see how it all started, Doc?
Well, if my calculations are correct, when I throw this switch, amazing stuff is going to happen. You ready?
I'd be worried.
Great Scott! That was a bumpy ride in 2008.
Yeah, recessions, that'll happen to you. Hey, but I think we made it. In fact, look around. I think we're in the city of Maricopa around the time of incorporation. In fact, isn't that Mayor Anderson over there? Hold on. Mayor Anderson, is that you?
Yes, sir, and you are?
Hi, I'm Calvin Klein.
Calvin Klein.
Yeah.
Welcome to Maricopa.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
New resident handbook.
Oh.
And so if you want to run for mayor someday, we could be Mayor Klein. You never know.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I appreciate it.
please do
Well,
that.
hey, congratulations on incorporation. Place is amazing, but there's a ton of work left to do.
You know, there's a lot of work getting the city started. And one of our biggest projects is a grade separation over the railroad. We have over 300 buses a day that go across that track, and that's a safety concern. We have a Harrah's Auction Casino south of town. So access, economic development, the loop is really important. So
Big deal.
It's huge. It's the number one on my project list. Yeah.
Man, I can see it. You know, I foresee in the future a lot of trips to D.C., a lot of mayors and council members putting a lot of time and effort into it. In fact, I can even see in your future perhaps an appointment to the State Transportation Board, an appointment by the governor perhaps?
That sounds pretty darn good to me. I'd
bet
like
it
that the way it
does.
rings. Yeah, Mr. Klein, thank you very much.
It's good to see you. Hey,
Yeah.
oh, by the way,
Yes, sir.
if someone ever emails you and says, I want to come and get involved in city politics and help out with the city government, make sure you email them back, okay? Nice to meet you.
Email?
Trust me.
Okay, thank you. Appointed by the governor to the State Transportation Board. I like that.
Thanks, Doc, I think. Oh, my goodness. That just gets weirder and weirder every time. All right. As you all know, Mayor Kelly Anderson went on to be appointed to the Arizona State Transportation Board as our district's representative and eventually became the board's chairman. You know, without Kelly's service on that board, this project may never have happened. But it also took years of groundwork to make this project a reality, with countless trips to Washington, D.C. by members of the City Council to meet and speak with our elected representatives, meetings with the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Rail, 7 different attempts at applying for federal Tiger grants, extensive meetings with ADOT, and working with numerous transportation agencies locally. These are just some of the essential lead-ups that are required to achieve the funding and eventual construction of a major highway project that soon, looking backwards, we will not know how we ever lived without it. You know, I understand that each of us has our conceptions on what the opening of this overpass will eventually look like, okay? So let me see if I can add a little clarity here. First, this project will actually open in stages, okay? As I explain this, I would ask that you be patient with the timeline I'm about to give you. And the reason for that is knowing that problems in construction can happen for any reason and are always subject to change, but should all things go according to plan, this is what you can expect in the coming months. In November of 2018, paving of Plainview Road should begin shortly and open to traffic by as early as next month. By early December 2018, that's this year, they hope to complete the pier caps and erect the bridge girders. Though the pier caps are the lateral beams that you see being formulated right now, and the girders are the ones that expand over the railroad tracks. By the spring of 2019, they hope to open the actual bridge to 347 traffic. Yep. Now, once the traffic goes over the bridge and not across the railroads at grade level, traffic will stay there while the existing 347 gets worked on and modified for the adjoining roadway connections. Then we hope for substantial completion of the full project by November of 2019. Now again, anything can happen, but we hope that if it stays on that course, there is relief in sight. You know, along with the overpass, things are really moving along here in the city of Maricopa, and so much has happened since my last report to you last October. Time around here seems to be literally flying by. Go figure. But one major accomplishment I'd like to report on to you tonight is the hiring of our new city manager. Many of you may not be aware, but here in Maricopa government, we operate under what is called a council manager form of government. That means that the city council can only hire and fire 3 people: the city magistrate, the city attorney, and the city manager. The city manager, while the other 2 have specific job descriptions, the city manager is responsible for all the hiring and firing and the day-to-day operations of the entire city staff. Not to mention he has to answer to 7 elected and sometimes cantankerous bosses. That means you guys. Cantankerous. Oh, you're not really cantankerous. It's really the vice mayor that's cantankerous, so I blame you. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. All right. So as you can imagine, it's a pretty big job, and it's not really an easy one at that. The job of a city manager is to take the vision and the direction of the elected city council members and implement it and bring it to life with the city staff. It's his job to take the services and the procedures of the city and make them better and more efficient as directed by the city council. He is also to help find ways to cut through bureaucratic processes and red tape in government in order to serve the people whom we all represent better. Hiring a position of that caliber is no easy task, and in fact, it requires an exorbitant amount of time from your council and lots of meetings in order to find just the right person. We spent countless hours earlier this year interviewing stakeholders, business owners, and the general public to find out what you all wanted in your next city manager. We then opened the search nationwide in hopes of finding that the perfect person who would help Maricopa with the needs it has now, as well as the needs it will have in the future. I believe that Rick is a great addition to our team. Heck, I got him dressed up like this, and he volunteered to do it, right? Yeah. That's a win. I mean, what was he going to do? Tell me no? Come on. You could have. All right, Rick is a great addition to our team. He understands partnerships, economic development, performance metrics, accountability, flexibility, and what customer service is all about. I look forward to many productive years together as he takes direction from the city council and he implements it in the most efficient and business-friendly ways possible. While government will never be perfect, it just won't, and it will also never truly be the private sector. It operates a little bit in between. We have different rules and regulations we have to follow around here, but what we can be is more efficient, less cumbersome, and more effective. We can always find ways to be more customer-oriented, more business-friendly, more open to new ideas, and overall do a better job of listening to our constituency and the businesses that we are here to serve. And today we are here to recommit to you to do just that. You see, it's appropriate that we have City Manager Horst playing the role of Dr. Emmett Brown from the Back to the Future movie this evening. In the movie, Doc is always tinkering with things and finding new ways to make stuff work better. And here internally at the city, Doc Horst, as we like to call him now, is no different. As you know, each year I like to report to you on some of the internal workings of what is transpiring behind the scenes, because you guys often don't get to see that. So I think one of the biggest transformations that is occurring in our city today is one of streamlining. Obviously, there are a lot of ways to define and to effectuate streamlining. But here in Maricopa, one of the ways we are accomplishing this is through the combining of resources and eliminating outdated and ineffective redundancies. For example, recently you may have heard that we have eliminated the Department of Public Works as a standalone division and instead combined it with our streets maintenance division, or portion of the former Public Works Department, with park maintenance and facilities maintenance. These divisions together are now located up under the Community Services Department. That may not mean like much to you, but this will maximize the use of personnel, limited resources, and enable the shifting and better integration of our existing workforce and their various assets. We believe this will allow us to be more resourceful and save on costs and be more effective in the field. We have also restructured other departments to further the mission of streamlining and efficacy. A new Department of Administrative Services has been created using existing personnel and budgets of 4 different internal departments, such as personnel and budgets, such as financial services, human resources, information technology, and communications. They now all fall under this one single division. As recently stated by the department's new director, Jennifer Brown, having all these support services in one department allows us to streamline and centralize these important citywide functions for enhanced coordination, planning, and communication in the areas of technology, budget, purchasing, and personnel. But the changes don't stop there. Here at the City of Maricopa, we are always looking for ways to make things healthier and more robust. And believe it or not, we are always listening to you, our customers. While big changes can take time to incorporate, we are always working to make them happen. And tonight I'm excited to present to you a big change when it comes to doing business here in the City of Maricopa. We believe that businesses are the heart and soul of a healthy and prosperous city, from startup entrepreneurs who are just entering the business world with their new ideas to large big box chain stores that are commonly seen around the country. We believe that good business-friendly regulations while ensuring public safety and strong customer protections just make good business sense. So as of January 1, 2019, pending approval from your City Council, the City of Maricopa will be moving from a business licensure program to a more user-friendly, less expensive, and much faster business registry process. Now, you know it must be good. Just look at the grin on that guy's face, right? I mean, he's having a good time. So how does this work? And what's the difference, you ask? You see, the purpose of a typical business license process is something that almost all cities have. The need to generate a contact database to provide for public safety, overall economic development, forecasting, and to provide accurate revenue projections for budget preparation just makes sense when you need to know who's doing business in your jurisdiction. So as of 2019, the new City of Maricopa business application will be a one-page, online process wherein the business registration certificate will be available to be printed out immediately upon completion of the application process. It will be valid for 1 year. We will also be eliminating certain inspection requirements that used to accompany the old process, except in the cases of some specialty type businesses like alcohol sales, smoke shops, tattoo parlors, etc. These types of businesses will follow a more structured program under the direction of the Maricopa Police Department. Moreover, we also want to reduce the costs to our local business. Currently, the typical city business license costs about $50. To help remove barriers to entry into the marketplace and further expand the registry's use among currently non-registered businesses, with the new program, we'll be lowering the cost to a mere $10. Veteran-owned businesses and nonprofit organizations, while required to fill out an application, will be exempted from paying the fee. So if you're doing business in the City of Maricopa, we want you to know that we're happy that you're here. And we also want to have you registered. But we also want to make sure that your registration process is as smooth and simple as possible so that you can get back to doing what you do best, your business. Speaking of getting down to business, so much has happened since the last time I addressed you. And if you weren't watching closely, here are a few things you may have missed. In January of this year, we challenged the entire city to a voluntary weight loss contest. Over 500 people signed up to participate in this new program. And in doing so, we enlisted the help and participation from our fitness sector businesses that we had before and after weigh-ins, supportive Facebook pages with friendly and helpful advice from trainers and nutritionists to help participants achieve a healthier lifestyle. The results were truly inspiring. More than 250 people completed the entire 30-day challenge, losing over 1,440 pounds in just 1 month. This year, we will continue the tradition with Maricopa's second annual weight loss challenge. We will also be adding to it a health and wellness expo and a healthy potluck for all those who wish to join in and see that eating healthy actually can taste good, believe it or not. So with the holidays approaching, enjoy your goodies now, because come January, it's time to get back into shape for a healthy and happy, productive new year. Now, while you're getting healthy, why not try a new sport? A few months ago, the City Council approved the use of monies that were paid to the city because of our continued housing and business development growth. This money is given by developers for very specific uses at the city's parks. This year, they will be used to construct 8 brand new pickleball courts. Now, if you've never played pickleball before, you're missing out, because it's truly a game for all ages, from our youth to our seniors. As we've moved towards approval of these new courts, we worked closely with the pickleball community to find out what would make our courts the very best. 6 of our new courts will be standard, regulation size courts with all the bells and whistles that will make playing the game a little more comfortable. But our other 2 courts, they will be uniquely championship sized. All of our courts will be nestled on existing real estate at Copper Sky. If you're not involved with this sport, this may not seem like a very big deal to you, but our championship courts will be the only ones that exist today in the entire state of Arizona. This sport is an exponentially growing behemoth, and nationwide tournaments to play on officially sanctioned championship courts travel across the country to find such amenities. An amenity that, for now, only the city of Maricopa will currently offer. As we continue to attract tournaments of all kinds to the area, this is helping drive attention to the Copper Sky commercial property and many other sites within Maricopa. We'll talk more about this in just a minute. As we continue to grow and mature as a city, we are able to focus on more programs that we were not able to offer in our more formative years. This year we have made some great strides on this front, and we have been able to add some innovative things that other cities do not offer. Once again, making the city of Maricopa unique to her residents. This year we focused heavily on our residents that are deaf and hard of hearing. We believe there are approximately 4,000, plus or minus, people that live in and around Maricopa that are deaf and hard of hearing. While there is much you probably don't know about this tight-knit community, they are often overlooked as they simply can't understand, or better said, they are not informed on what is going on in primarily a hearing world. So this year we began to make sure that all of our video productions and our promotions are closed captioned. That includes our city council meetings, our promotional materials, and even our event here tonight will be closed captioned in post-production for all that depend on this important service. But we didn't stop there. Thanks to the efforts of local hard of hearing resident Mr. Fred Greenspan, we were able to get a grant for Maricopa's very first video phone. That's the picture you see here behind me. With only 5 existing locations with this technology inside the Maricopa County region, this is the very first official video phone for the deaf in all of Pinal County, and the only other one that exists in the entire state. You know, we've installed this new video phone technology at the Maricopa Public Library. Here, the user can sign their live conversation, and then the message is translated on the other end by an in-person translation service, which is staffed by, this translation service, which is staffs the calls used by the video phone user 24/7. Our video phone is available for use to make or receive phone calls anytime the library is open. We know we have a long way to go in providing services to other disenfranchised segments of our population, but we also want you to know that we are actively working to change that one step at a time. Of course, you already know what a great job our public safety personnel do within the city of Maricopa, but they do so much more than what you typically see by just looking at a patrol sergeant or a responding firefighter. When it comes to Maricopa Police Department, they have been exceptionally busy accomplishing things you probably didn't even know about. Did you know that this year they reduced Part 1 crimes like homicide, aggravated assault, theft by 8%, and Part 2 crimes like drug offenses, DUIs, and weapons violations by 10%? In short, due to their actions, there were over 308 fewer victims of crime in the city this year, and we continue to remain one of the 5 safest cities in Arizona. And this continues. And this continues notwithstanding our growth. Did you also know that our police department was recertified this year by CALEA? Now that CALEA stands for the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement. This is the national gold standard for police policy analysis and accountability. This is a major accomplishment for an agency as new and as small as ours. Why is this important, you may ask? Because this accreditation helps keep your various insurance rates down and your property values up. I bet you also didn't know that our department also recently launched a special needs registry that people can voluntarily place themselves on, or a family member. This registry better helps to educate and inform responding officers on what kinds of special circumstances they may be responding to. It also helps to de-escalate a potentially confrontational encounter and helps to further protect the public and the officers, which is good for everybody. And another first for the region and for Maricopa is the full deployment of Maricopa PD's Unmanned Aerial System, or UAS for short. Basically, that's a code word for super drone. Looks pretty cool, huh? Okay. Now, personally, I think our super drone came about because Chief Stahl keeps asking me for a helicopter, and I keep telling him no, he's not getting a helicopter. I'm just kidding. He doesn't ask me for a helicopter. But if he did, I'd tell him no. Sorry, Chief. I'm just kidding. Anyways, but having an eye in the sky is undoubtedly important in a certain criminal and missing persons case. It's always important to have extra ways to find people. Also, in an effort not to duplicate service or personnel, our UAS and its fully trained pilots have the ability to work closely with the fire department. Through the use of its technologically advanced, highly sensitive infrared cameras, it can actually go up and look for hot spots in a building or a house fire and then notify the responding firefighters. This helps save additional property and people's lives. While there are so many wonderful things I could tell you about our police department, and every city department for that matter, I'd like to focus on an area now that very rarely ever gets any attention. And that's the area of grants. Now, and what, I guess I should tell you, and what those grants actually do for us, specifically in the areas of public safety. You know, grants are a misnomer. They're kind of a buzzword, right? People love to talk about grants. They think that they are the end-all, be-all to solving every fiscally constrained situation or project that needs to be done. Oh, there's a grant for that. You want to do that? No, brother, there's a grant for that. Where? Where's that grant? Show me, okay? Because there's a lot of problems that go into that. So, but to actually do the work necessary to get them. So let me kind of talk about that for a second. To do extensive research in finding them and then meet the required qualifications, then put in the hours upon hours to write them, then to fully meet the stringent reporting requirements once you win one, it's no easy task. In fact, not to mention, most people give up long before the process ever bears any fruit. Here in the city of Maricopa, we believe in going the distance, putting in the work when others will not. Indeed, we have some fabulous grant writers, both in and out of the public safety departments. But I think it's really important to point out that some of our most important grant accomplishments, the assets, the programs here in the city, have come through the process of building relationships. Relationships that in turn led to monies given to us through the grant process that never would have come to fruition without that relationship building. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. In the next few months, the city of Maricopa will see the opening of a family advocacy center. While it will open without much fanfare or attention, the Family Advocacy Center here in Maricopa will function quietly, and it will be the only one who ever have to use it. But it's not simply a reality. This center will operate as who are victims of violence, victimization, lots of time giving up. Myself and our council members or our city staff, why do we travel to DC? Or why do we travel around the state attending meetings and spending the time and the money it takes to do this when there are no guarantees of return or success? The answer is simple. I've shown you here tonight, whether it's federal monies from the Tiger Grant program for a grade separation, police or fire equipment, new roads, citywide replacement of street signs, or the new placement of fiber optic infrastructure in our roadways, this is but a small snapshot of the many, many grants we apply for and win because of our sustained efforts. In short, it's thousands of dollars invested to get millions of dollars in return. You know, professionally, as a financial advisor, I can officially say to you tonight, that's a pretty spectacular ROI, or return on your investment. You know, as Maricopa continues to grow, so does its reputation and sway. While it will take generations for our name and population alone to wield influence like some of the other larger cities in the state, in our short 15 years of existence, we have accomplished what very few other cities and towns have done in such a short period of time. We have risen to positions of statewide influence in a variety of prominent organizations that assist us in accomplishing the desires of our citizens in an assortment of different arenas. The most recent of these is the honor and privilege that the city of Maricopa now holds as the president of the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. Thank you. So the Arizona League is an advocacy organization that was formed in 1937 and works on the behalf of the 91 incorporated member municipalities across the state to further protect the interests of cities and towns and their citizenries at the Arizona State Legislature. You know, there are two key principles that the League members fight to protect. The first is to protect state shared revenues. This is typically the largest source of revenue that comes to each municipality, and it is distributed equally by population formula. And it is used to pay for the daily services that you expect and demand in the city where you live. That's how we have the money to do it. Number two is to preserve local control of cities and towns. The Arizona State Legislature provides for statewide legislation, but in a large state with such varied needs such as population, age, traditions, beliefs, growth patterns, etc., cities and towns are simply not a one-size-fits-all. At the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, we strive to find balance to that difficult question of governing such a diverse group of interests. Personally, I've always believed that Maricopa was and is uniquely qualified and geographically located to fulfill this task. As a people, our city straddles the line of being both urban and rural. We are just far enough outside the Phoenix area to be very individualized, and yet we are also closely adjoined with the Phoenix metro region in the services that we expect and the ways in which we do business. We are distinctly Pinal County. However, generally, our population associates themselves with the Maricopa County region and its way of thinking. By living these realities, I believe it better positions us to understand the needs of municipalities all over the state and how to best go about representing them for the next 2 years of our tenure as president. As I stated earlier, Maricopa continues to grow with our ever-increasing business-friendly policies along with the prices and availability of undeveloped land in this area. This continues to make Maricopa a prime target for progress. But perhaps it doesn't happen as fast as we'd all like it to. But we are seeing businesses come out of the dirt and invest in our city. In fact, just this year, we've seen stores like Ross and Dunkin' Donuts and Denny's and Planet Fitness open their doors, with many more on the way. While retail establishments are not the only goal to see built here, the retail and eatery sectors are considered the low-hanging fruit from a speed-to-market perspective. Furthermore, we are happy to have them as they provided much-needed tax revenue to the city, local jobs, and it adds to the overall increased quality of life that helps stop that retail leakage to older, more established cities in the area. As we continue to court businesses to expand into the Maricopa marketplace, we are continuously told how important rooftops and population are. In the metrics that these various corporations use in deciding whether or not to invest millions into our community. As you drive around the Maricopa, undoubtedly you have seen the numerous active home builders that continue to see the value our city presents. They are rising to meet the growing demand through new home construction. We currently have 7 home builders operating within the city, with 3 more about to enter the market. We expect approximately 1,200 or more new homes to be built this year, with even larger numbers anticipated in the years to come. We also continue to court industries of all types, which are much harder to attract due to the specific needs that each industry requires before locating to a given area. One of our challenges as a city is that many of these potential industry locates, as they're called, are looking for existing, formerly built-out space that fit perfectly into their exact specifications right now. Easy, right? Not so much in Maricopa. Even in older, more established cities, finding something that is an exact fit is a rarity at best. But when what you have to offer is dirt, it presents a different set of trials to overcome before building construction can ever even think about occurring. We as a city are working head-on to resolve these issues with robust partnerships and legally incentivized development through good business policies and best practices. As we continue to work tirelessly on the hosts of things I just mentioned, there will always be the questions that arise relating to when will a hospital and other industries locate to Maricopa? You've never heard that before, right? I think in my 10 minutes out there, I heard it about 16 times. So I'm thinking about it, don't worry. Let me assure you that those discussions continue to happen today, and they continue to evolve, jointly with the city, the developers, and the industries themselves. And while we are hopeful that our diligent efforts will someday be successful, I will save those further discussions for another topic and day. Nevertheless, The day is coming that facilitating those discussions will be made easier as we continue to find development partners willing to share the burden of marketing and master planning the various tracts of land throughout Maricopa. These partnerships are critical when actively seeking to attract business to vacant land. After all, it's the developer who coordinates and pays for the placement of the infrastructure, such as the roads, the sidewalks, the water, the sewer, the electric, to their particular property. They also map out where the buildings are going to go and then work to get those buildings and their occupants out of the ground and operational as quickly as possible. This is a really long process. And it can be shorter if you have the community buy-in from your development partner. In fact, you've witnessed this firsthand in the Edison Point development and seen for yourself the results of what happens when a developer works closely with the city and the city closely with them to actively solicit connections and leads that eventually turn into occupants of the planned site. This process of working hand in hand helps move things forward farther, faster than it would typically if we waited for it to happen by itself. Now, please note, that's not to say that it can't happen alone, but it is to say that the process typically advances with more purpose and more speed when there are multiple parties holding each other accountable and broadening their networks of possibilities in getting things done. While this process may be the best one available, it isn't without its hardships. Partnerships are never perfect, and they have their challenges, and sometimes they even go wrong. Go figure. We are always subject to the delays and the challenges that our partner brings to the table. We saw this in our first go-around to develop the city-owned Estrella Gen property. While the partner we engaged with was a very large and reputable, well-capitalized, and very qualified company, in this case, when things got challenging for the company, instead of pushing through it and they simply moved on to easier, greener pastures, putting our project on the back burner for another day. They just simply didn't have enough of that community buy-in that is sometimes needed to will a project into existence. Sometimes, after several attempts to make things right, these types of development relationships simply don't work. It's not the end of the world, people, but it is a temporary setback. It's also the opportunity for us to go back out and find in the marketplace a better match that will ultimately profit both parties. We've all heard the phrase that time heals all wounds. Then as this situation evolves over time, we must be fully prepared for the next opportunity that presents itself. 3 years ago, in the midst of the challenges we were facing with our previous development partner at the Estrella Gen property, I started a conversation with a developer on a plane bound for an economic development showcase. As we talked, he showed significant interest in the stories and the visions that I was expressing to him about the city of Maricopa. From that point forward, we began a long courtship, of continuous contact, meetings, trips, due diligence by the developer to the city, and the unceasing flow of information needed to be comfortable enough just to move forward to the next steps of the process. From there, they participated in an open bidding process and eventually won. Since then, we have been negotiating the details of the project, and this new partnership contract for phased development of the Estrella Gen Business Park should be ready for council approval in just a few weeks. I tell you all this for one simple reason. Please understand, if you want to be successful in your current and future economic development endeavors, building solid long-term relationships with key partners literally means everything to the development of the project. Speaking of the future, have you ever wondered what Maricopa will look like 15 years from now? I have, and I do every day. I'm pretty sure city leadership and residents alike weren't able to predict all that would or would not happen in the past 15 years. Right or wrong, with their perceived assessment of the future, our progress continues to roll forward. In fact, for years now, I've been saying that when the building of the overpass started, interest in investment potential in the southern portion of our city would skyrocket. Indeed, interest in our city is booming, and nowhere more so than at our Copper Sky commercial property. As you know, Copper Sky Commercial has 18 acres, perfectly situated with 347 frontages, and sits adjacent to our beautiful multi-generational facility and sports complex. Recently, we've partnered with Commercial Properties Incorporated, or CPI for short, a development group that has won the RFP and will be master planning the entire Copper Sky commercial site. Their far-reaching network of connections in the real estate world with retailers, builders, financiers, etc., in Arizona and across the country is extensive. Combine this with the city's rigorous economic development efforts and policy backing and ownership in the land, all provide for a partnership prepared for great success. You know, I've often thought about what exactly that might look like. Maybe we should do a little more time traveling together. What do you think? Uh-oh, we might have to time travel through this storm that I hear coming. That's okay by me. All right, so Cecil, right there. Would you come on up here for a second? So Cecil here, he's our partner from CPI. He's going to be helping us. Thank you, good job. Thanks for being here. Now, Cecil, what do you say you and I jump forward by 15 years
I'm
or
excited
so?
to do
You
so.
ready to try
Let's
this?
go take a
Okay.
look.
All right, okay.
Are you all ready?
You ready to go? All right, we're gonna see what the site looks like 15 years from now. I know you don't believe me, but it's gonna happen, okay? Hey, Dad, Doc, can I borrow the car in the council chambers? Oh, perfect, thanks. Cecil, do the honors. All right, everybody ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, look at all this growth here at Copper Sky Commercial. This place is amazing. Look, there's hotels and restaurants, people outside shopping and eating. This place is hopping. It is packed, and it's a beautiful October day to boot. It's incredible.
Isn't this awesome? As planned, there are hotels right here. Shops and restaurants with living space above them, housing for seniors, standalone restaurants, and lots of open space for Maricopa's excellent outdoor living.
Man, I cannot believe how much is going on here at Copper Sky Commercial. It seems as though there's something for everybody. People of all ages are here, enjoying the restaurants. In fact, I think I see a sign over there that talks about one of the many tournaments that we have going on here. Maricopa, I can't wait for you too to start enjoying this. Save that for later. Here's your keys, Dad. Thanks. Car worked perfectly. Perfectly. All right, so, I would have liked to have actually shown you what the real version of what Cecil and I were looking at. But, we have a little problem with our special effects budget. It's really small. In fact, doesn't exist. So sorry about that. You'll have to use your imagination. All right, so let's take a minute or two and talk about what Maricopa's future might actually look like. Or what do we want it to become? Several years ago, I talked about Maricopa being a blank slate, and we could make it into anything that we could imagine. I still believe that. In fact, when I think about our future, I often stop to recognize that some of the beginnings actually started in the past. It also makes me think that sometimes ideas and blazing new trails can come full circle. Here's what I mean.
It's crazy, so much has changed in our lifetime, especially technology's changed a lot. I was thinking everything comes full circle though. I was thinking about communication, we started, as a civilization, we started with hieroglyphics, right? And then we got the alphabet, thanks to Doug. And so we had hieroglyphics, then we got the alphabet, right? Then we got the telegraph, and then we got the telephone, and then we got the cell phone. And then we started texting, and then we started abbreviating our texts, and then we started using emojis, and we're back to talking with pictures.
He's right, isn't he? He's right. I love that guy. Okay, so full circle. Full circle. What does that mean to come full circle? Well, 8 years ago, former Mayor Smith, now Supervisor Smith, mentioned in his State of the City address that a hotel proprietor had entered City Hall with the intention of starting the process to eventually move to full build-out. However, a corporation's decision to finance, purchase land, get the right hotel partner on board, and then start working through the city's processes can be a lengthy timeline. As we came to find out later, this hotelier was not well capitalized. He was actually inexperienced in the industry, and he also encountered numerous hurdles from the outside forces like tightening financing and worsening economic conditions. As the recession hit its full stride, the dream of Maricopa's first hotel in the modern era passed into lore. So here we are, a full 8 years later. You know, I love this quote. While many hoteliers over the years have inquired about building here, none have been willing to commit to anything. So I wonder if we have now finally found the magical formula for our own time-released success. With the help of CPI and Cecil Yates, who we just introduced you to, we believe we have finally found the right partner, one who is well capitalized, has extensive experience in the industry. Also, the corporate brand has been approved, the land has been purchased, the development agreements and contracts have already been signed, and the city's process has already begun. So, if all continues to go well in the coming year, we should see Maricopa's first hotel since the early 1930s being built on the Copper Sky commercial site. Now, in our excitement, I will, however, offer you this word of caution. There's always a caveat, right? Remember that in the business of real estate transactions and economic development, especially ones involving multi-million-dollar structures, until we're all there cutting the ribbon, anything can happen, okay? I'm just telling you the processes here. It is also important to note that with the overpass, our site developer, Akchen's developments in the area, and the land being ready for building, a frenzy of interest has already begun among the industry. So should this particular developer fall through with their plans, then there are 6 or 7 other hoteliers waiting anxiously in the wings to take their spot, and that's always a good sign for us. Thank you. So, you know, earlier I showed you a clip of a comedian who was joking about technology. It's true, right? When I think about the future, I think a lot about technology, or how it's intended to make our lives better, how it's supposed to help them make it easier. I also tend to reflect on how much we've come to rely on it. But something we often forget in the race to create and achieve, and that is along the educational path of life, we must pass through the experience of failure if we are to achieve boldly. Perhaps you may remember some of these recent examples. Some years ago, we witnessed the invention of technologies that were revolutionary to us then, but today have become somewhat commonplace and even outdated, just like we saw in the video. In this era of invention, we watch Beta lose out to VHS and Blu-ray 1 over HD DVD. All of these companies use their knowledge, their skills, their technological advances and business acumen to invent and produce something of value. While one stumbled and lost the race, the other found the courage to persevere through the difficult days and ultimately went on to find great success. These businesses literally changed the way the world relied upon their industry and their technology. All of these technologies contributed to the industry's growth and overall to the world's technological advancement. We prospered as a society because of their desires to push the envelope and do what never had been done before. You know, as the Roman poet Virgil stated so eloquently, fortune favors the bold. If true, then our city must carry forward a new mantra, a new rallying cry. Bold must be our present if we are to arrive at our future. To bravely seek out success despite the ever-present possibilities of failure, we must press onward if we are to obtain and to triumph in our lofty ambitions. Friends, our future is now. It's already upon us. And if for some reason you think it's not, then let me share just a little bit about what's happening in the world around you today. You know, this past month, I read an article in the Wall Street Journal where they were talking about food that is about to find its way into your home in a way that you never before thought possible. Imagine with me now, printed meals to order. Literally, a machine similar to a printer is being mass-produced right now that instead of ink uses ingredients that you add into the machine, and it prints out or creates the food you want to eat. Think chicken nuggets for the kids. I probably ought to get one of these machines because my kids eat lots of chicken nuggets. Okay, so I know you're thinking you're crazy, right? All right. Shrimp that look and feel real, like the ones you had out there, but actually they're made of algae. That's what we had out there for you, algae shrimp. I'm just kidding, they weren't. Okay, but next time they will be. And they'll be made in that little machine so you can watch it. Edible coverings that wrap the fruit like apples, peaches, strawberries, and they keep it fresh for weeks, thus reducing pricing and spoilage rates and increasing prolonged nutrition. These are just some of the technological innovations that are about to revolutionize the food industry forever and change the way we eat. So if technology can change the very food that we eat, then it's not that far of a stretch to think that when Hollywood predicted that someday soon we would all have flying cars, well, at least flying DeLoreans, then it shouldn't surprise you that the following may be a reality very shortly in a garage near you. $347 is not looking so bad after all, is it? Well, this car is being made by a company called Terrafugia, and it's appropriately named the Transition. It belongs to the Volvo family of cars, and it actually goes on sale this month. If that's too futuristic for you, though, and you're saying to yourself, yeah, right, I don't believe that. That can't be real. Okay, no problem. Let's bring it a little closer to home for you, here in Pinal County. We are about to have front row seats to the building of some of the most modern, transformative vehicles to ever hit the streets. Just down the road here, Lucid Motors is currently building the newest generation of electric vehicles with a fully integrated electric drivetrain, 400-mile ranges, and is fully autonomous ready with a simple download at the appropriately authorized time. If that wasn't enough, on the other side of the I-10, our neighbors there will start manufacturing an all-new revolutionary hybrid electric hydrogen semi-truck. These trucks are zero emissions and have an over 1,000-mile range. They bring with them a savings of 20% less operating costs per mile, more horsepower and torque, and have the ability to accelerate up to speed 2 times faster than a standard diesel truck. They have more safety features than any truck that's ever been built, and with a truck weight of 2,000 pounds less, it will allow for more towing cargo that equates to over $360,000 per year in increased revenues to the owner. Now, that's not all. Right now, without mentioning names, some of our local car companies with vehicle proving grounds in and around the city of Maricopa here, they are currently developing a way in which they can charge your electric vehicle's battery in the same amount of time or less than it takes to fill up your gas tank. But folks, we're not stopping there. This is the era of roads being filled with self-driving cars. And if you don't think, guess what? They are coming. And we will soon see them on every road we share. The start of this is, by all accounts, less than 5 years away. With highways full of autonomous vehicles, it will change everything. You've all seen the Google-partnered Waymo cars being tested in the Chandler area. Think about it. With an autonomous car, after your car drops you off at work, it can then proceed to Uber around for other people for the remainder of the day, earning you an additional income. That's pretty cool, huh? You don't need a parking garage or pay for a sticker. You're going to earn money. When summoned, when you're ready, your car returns to drive you home. How much more productive will you be? And how much more calm will you be when you're no longer stressed and irritated by the rush hour traffic? Did you know that currently 94% of all road accidents are caused by human error and or distraction? How much more efficient will our roadways be when you can fit hundreds more cars per square inch on every road while reducing accidents and deaths by hundreds of thousands each year? Self-driving cars will also change the way business as we know it gets done. We already know what Amazon and the internet have done to the brick and mortar stores. But think about it. Presently, there is a drugstore on every corner in America. We go there to get our medication scripts filled, and perhaps we pick up a few other needed items. The amount of real estate, personnel costs, inventory, delivery, and other liabilities make it a very expensive way to do business. So what if our scripts go straight to our favorite virtual pharmacy? The script is filled, our other items that we want are ordered and paid for from our smart device, and then in a few minutes an autonomous vehicle pulls up to wherever you are located, and drawers slide out containing all of your items. All of this is done in less time than it would have taken you to drive to the local physical location. With driverless cars, do we need a corner drugstore anymore? The possibilities for endless disruption with autonomous vehicles is endless. I tell you about these companies tonight because not only are they real and happening right now, but they are actually located in our existing trade area. But they are actually, many of the needed support operation businesses and high wage earning workforce employees will be built and live right here within the city of Maricopa. With one of the highest per capita post-secondary educated workforces in the state, this, along with our proximity, will make Maricopa an extremely attractive place to live and grow, support businesses, and facilities of all types for these industries. We must begin preparing our policies, our procedures, our people, and our city for the wave of industry that is coming to support these existing regional industrial operations. Our future success will depend on what we do now. 56 years ago, in 1962, President John F. Kennedy delivered a famous speech intended to rally the nation and bolster the country's waning beliefs that America could still choose to do great things, even hard things. As he proceeded to give this speech, there were plenty of prominent leaders opposing and presenting well-thought-out arguments on why the money for this program should be invested elsewhere instead of on this bold new initiative. You know, 58% of the nation at that time actually agreed that it should not even be done. But having a vision and a confident belief for the future, he moved it forward anyways, and it came to be known as the Moon Speech. If you haven't heard it in a while, listen very closely as we start. His words, as he condenses all of the human history into a small time capsule of about 50 years. And watch as he lays out the reasons why striving for things that have never been done before challenge the status quo and change the course of human history.
We meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait, if this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything. It is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. We shall send to the moon, 240,000 miles away, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body and then return it safely to Earth. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
Can words spoken from an era long gone by encourage a modern city of today to have lofty and ambitious aims? Technology, entrepreneurialism, creativity, disruption, and boldness at the present time are accelerating mankind's accomplishments at a dizzying pace. And although I will never be as eloquent as President Kennedy, I dare say to each of you within the sound of my voice tonight that the city of Maricopa has a role to play in the timeline of history. Let today's resolve be our modern moon speech, and let us raise the standard of fearlessness and take our place among the stars of our state's history and its future. You know, to Doc Brown's credit, he really did say it best when he said, "Our future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is what you make of it. So let's make it a good one." As you go and make your way home this evening, we have a little memento for each of you. And while it's no Apple product, I hope it reminds you that we each share the same amount of time in a day, and I am optimistic that we will all learn to make the most of it. As always, it's been a pleasure having you here tonight. So let me close with the immortal words of Biff Tannen. So why don't you all make like a tree and get out of here? Thank you for being here. Good night.